Hey everyone, thanks for joining me as we take a look at the GrainShift module from Audio Damage. In addition to the input and output jacks, we have three primary controls: pitch, chaos, and the grain size, as well as three accompanying CV inputs for each. Just like on the Dub Junior, each CV input simply subtracts or adds, depending on the polarity of the voltage, to whatever you have the manual control set to. So very simple control set, but a very powerful granular processor. So let's jump right into some examples. The pitch control is a bipolar control. So at 12 o'clock or center here, we have no pitch shift. If we were to turn counterclockwise, we have pitch shift down, and turning clockwise, it would be pitch shift up. The chaos control, while I can't exactly explain how it does it, it definitely adds chaos to the signal. And the size is simply the size of the grains. Just to give you an audible example of how it sounds, I'm going to just play this somewhat low frequency sine wave. And first I'll adjust the size. We'll choose a really big grain. And at the beginning and end of the grain, you're going to have some crossfading, so there's no clicks. And you can hear that crossfading creating that amplitude pulse. Kind of gives you an audible idea of how wide the grain is there. And we can get so small that it actually starts to impart somewhat of a ring modulator sound, where we start hearing another frequency in there. And you can use that to some good effect. Showing the chaos knob, here you'll hear the signal get more chaotic. And of course the size control interacts here. And lastly, of course, the pitch. Cool, so let's go right into some patches. Okay, let's start with very simple, but actually one of my favorite sounds using the GrainShift is I've simply patched an envelope into the chaos input. Initially I have the chaos all the way down, there's no pitch shift, and you can kind of set the size to taste, but I've set it to the largest size. We're just going to have a sawtooth wave come in here, gated by an envelope, and then another envelope controlling the chaos. It's like an attack decay envelope, so it's going to set the chaos really high. It's going to be high voltage come out. Chaos will be like almost all the way up. And then over time, it'll come back down to no chaos. It kind of sounds like screaming horror chord kind of. Yeah, you just hear it. Yeah, I love that sound. This next example is what I like to call the super saw patch. So I'm not actually going to apply any CV here, just an example of how sort of cloudy and thick you can make things sound through the GrainShift. So again, we just have our just pure sawtooth oscillator. I've turned the pitch all the way down, injecting a little bit of chaos to the signal just to give it sort of that bigness to the size. And I've tuned size to be about there just because that's how it sounded. That's how it sounded best to me. So here's just the sound of the raw sawtooth. And now I'm going to patch this into the GrainShift. Here we go. Here's another trick I like to do with percussion. I like to take what maybe I just have a really tight, bassy percussion source, and I want to give it like a lot of space and sort of heaviness and darkness to it. So with percussion, you kind of want to use a smaller grain size here. At least initially, I'm going to shift the pitch up. I'm adding a good amount of chaos to it to really sort of mess with the decay and make it sound like it's sort of really, really messy. So here's our straight 808 kick from the Tip Top 808. Very recognizable. All right, now I'm going to patch it right into the GrainShift. You can see how much of a difference the size makes when it comes to percussion. So it can really transform a kick sound or any kind of percussion sound into something really, really different. The GrainShift can also do some really amazing processing with very dynamic sources like the human voice.
All those moments will be lost in time.
Like tears in the grain.
All those moments will be lost in time, like tears
In the grain.
All those moments will be lost in time, like tears in the grain. All those moments will be lost in time, like tears in the grain. All those moments will be lost in time, like tears in the grain. All those moments will be lost in time,
like tears in the grain.
all those moments will be lost in time, like tears in the grain.
All right, the last patch I want to show you guys is my favorite for making drones, especially from pretty simple sources. I like using the final out of the DPO. Any wave shaping oscillator source will work just fine. And I use the GrainShift to make it basically sound massive. Here's our straight sound. Pretty bass heavy. It works best with low frequencies with a little bit of harmonics in there. I'm going to patch it into the GrainShift. I'll be mostly manipulating the DPO, so if you hear sounds change and you don't see my fingers on camera, that's the DPO final shaping section. Otherwise, I'll be playing around with the GrainShift. Thanks for tuning in. See you guys next time.